We start with power shift in Afghanistan. A Taliban spokesperson has reaffirmed the group's will to build good relations with other countries and said it will not tolerate any threat to its principles and independence. Thousands of Afghans are attempting to flee the country, and anti-Taliban protesters have paraded a national flag through Kabul. Others are waiting to see what kind of rule the Taliban will impose. Now, for more on the fast-changing situation there, let's cross live to our correspondent Zmaryalai Abasin in Kabul. So tell us more about current political shift and power negotiations in Afghanistan.
Hello, Pan. Good morning. The situation in Kabul is stressful, full of anxiety and panic at the houses of the people of the capital. The situation is still reiterating for all of the people because they're not getting familiar with the Taliban yet. And this is the problem that makes the city full of a fever situation that the people are experiencing. Taliban broke fire on people and air bullets, and also when we see on the other side, the Kabul airport is also full of thousands of people, and other thousands of people are waiting in different areas outside the capital's airport, and those embassies and foreign missions gates are full of those people who are trying to flee the country because of the fear of the Taliban. And the Taliban were yet the Taliban fighter, not the Taliban police. That's why it makes people worried. And at the same time, the United Forces that are inside the airport, they also avoid people by breaking fire, and that's why we hear bullets, voices all around the city after 5 to 10 minutes to control all those evacuated inside. And on the other side, from outside the airport, Taliban are trying to take people accountable. One of Taliban's district chief was talking to media, and he told, yes, we will prevent those who try to flee, because he said we want them to work here in their own country, and Taliban narratives are different, but their fighters are not yet disciplined, and that's what makes capital residents much worried. Pan.
Zmaryalai, before we go into details about the security situation in Kabul, I'd like to recap the moment you were doing live crossover with us on Thursday night. Gunshots were heard very close by. Now let's recap that moment.
So we are hearing what appears to be gunshots in the background. Yes. Can you tell us a bit more about it? What are you assuming it's happening there?
I don't know because shooting, it's continued shooting. I don't know if the Taliban are stopping someone or anything.
So, Zmaryalai, what happened exactly over a Thursday night? And let's look at a big picture. How's the security situation in Kabul?
Pan, the security situation, according to the assassination, target killings, and other things that were happening in the past before 14th of August, is now reached to zero. There is no much casualties, but the fear and anxiety still remain the same. And yesterday that you appointed to, Pan, that was a time when I was on live, and then I searched about this. And I got that the Taliban fighters broke air-fire on the protesters yesterday because they were celebrating 102 Independence Day of the country, and they were holding national flags. So they wanted them to make stop or just evacuate the area. That's why the firing was continued. And at the same time, when Taliban fighter do something to make the order, that's different, because it seems like they are not well trained yet, because it's just starting off the 5th day that they are ruling capital Kabul and most of the cities, not more than 2 weeks. So they need discipline if they really want to do something, because but as I see them, they are just under an order from their leaders that do not shoot on people, do not search houses, do not do those things that can make people worried and panic. And that's the thing they are doing, but their way of behavior is totally different, and it scares people around the city. And it may take a long time if they really want to take orders and regulation and all those things that is necessary as accountable and responsible force. But yet we have to wait for the Taliban police, not the fighters. Pan?
Thank you very much and take care. Zmaryalai Abasin in Kabul. Now let's take a look at the big picture in Afghanistan. The country has a wide political spectrum made of many key players and factions. Against this background, the Taliban are promising to form an inclusive government. Timothy Ulrich has more.
The Taliban are looking to start from scratch. Everything from the constitution to the style of government to who has the final say in policy could be overhauled. A look into some of Afghanistan's prominent figures and groups offers a glimpse at what's to come and the challenges ahead. Haibatullah Akhundzada is the supreme commander of the Taliban. He remains a mysterious figure, like many in the upper echelons of the group. He has 3 deputies. His military commander is Mohammad Yaqub, the son of Taliban founder Mohammad Omar. Yaqub's age, appearance, and current location is unknown. Sirajuddin Haqqani is in charge of the Taliban's financial and military assets. He is wanted by the FBI over allegations including planning an assassination attempt in 2008 on then Afghan President Hamid Karzai. Abdul Ghani Baradar is the most outwardly facing Taliban figure in the higher ranks. He is the group's political chief and has been instrumental in peace talks in Doha. Baradar has returned to Afghanistan, and it is widely believed he will head the executive if one is created.
Now is the time to trial. We will give services to our nation. We give serenity to the whole nation, that we will go as far as possible for the betterment of their lives.
In addition to those already existing high-ranking members, the Taliban may bring over many civil servants from the previous government. These could include everyone from traffic police to bureaucrats that assist in day-to-day operations. The Taliban say they are offering amnesty to these Afghans. But there is growing dissent to Taliban rule, simmering on the surface just outside of Kabul. The Panjshir resistance is vowing to fight tooth and nail against the group. They're headed by Ahmad Massoud, the son of the renowned guerrilla commander known as the Lion of Panjshir. The vice president who served under Ashraf Ghani, Amrullah Saleh, has fled to the Panjshir Valley, joining the resistance. Saleh said earlier this week he is the rightful president of Afghanistan according to the constitution. The Panjshir resistance presents a major challenge to the Taliban's mandate. It's just one of many difficulties the Taliban will have to overcome to form a government and keep their promises. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.
For more insight into that, let's cross live to Professor Hamza Momin Hakimi in Kabul. He's a professor of law and political science at Salam University there. So, Professor, thank you very much for joining us. This is exactly your area of expertise. Let's start with Taliban's promise of forming an inclusive government. How inclusive can that be? And another big question is that, what about the other side? Will all the political forces in Afghanistan be willing to join a Taliban-led government?
Yes, good morning to you and to your viewers. What we can clearly see during these 5 days that after the controlling of the security situation in Kabul and other major cities of Afghanistan, Taliban has actually started since 2 or 3 days their negotiations and their talks forming an inclusive government. We have seen the member of the leadership team from Qatar, Mr. Anas Haqqani and other people in Kabul holding meetings with the political leaderships of current political parties and organizations in Afghanistan. They've been talking to Karzai, Hamid Karzai and Abdullah. They've been talking to Gulbuddin Hekmatyar and many other political leaders which are in Kabul. their statements state and shows everyone of an inclusive government. And I think the Taliban are going to form that inclusive government, if not for anything else, that is for the international recognition. Taliban need that kind of inclusive government. On the other hand, Taliban learned very well from their past 20 years of their staggering fight, and also from their past era of government in 1990s, that if the central government of Afghanistan excludes any party from the political structure of the future, it will not stand a long time until the problem is created for the central government of Afghanistan. The nature of this country is like that, and I think and I'm hopeful the Taliban has learned this lesson, that they will include anyone in Afghanistan, include all the ethnicities, include all the political parties, and include all these jihadi leaders who have roots into the people and the tribes and ethnicities of Afghanistan. So what their political statements and their movements on the ground and their talks and their negotiations indicate is that we are going to see an inclusive government. For sure, Taliban will have the main power in that government, but everyone else would also be a part of the government. I have some Taliban leaderships that they are even in contact with those political leaders that are fled out of Afghanistan, like Rashid Dostum and Atta Muhammad Noor, and even to the previous president Ashraf Ghani, as he also himself said that he is going to return back to Afghanistan. He did not talk anything about fighting back Taliban, but he said he emphasized on the negotiation for peace and talks for peace that Abdullah is leading currently. He said that he is supporting that negotiation of peace and talks of peace. So all these points indicate that we are going to witness an inclusive government. And the other point is that we were expecting announcing a new government. It has been 5th day and the new government has not been announced. The new regime, its shape has not been announced. And there is a large political party members in their leaderships of what we call the Northern Alliances, or Jamiyat-e-Islami leaders, Yunus Qanuni and the former Speaker of the House, and many other political leaders are in Pakistan currently. They are running their negotiations there. And we think, and political analysts think, that they are negotiating for the future regime and future government of Afghanistan and how it is going to be shaped.
And Professor, so far, much of the information seems to be about technicalities of forming a government. But has the Taliban made it clear about its political ideology? So that leads to the very nature of this incoming regime. Will it be ultra-conservative, or will it be a little bit more secular?
Let me tell you, Afghanistan is an Islamic country. People here are Muslim. So the government of Afghanistan, previously, it was Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. So it had an Islamic word attached to it, even under American existence in Afghanistan. So for sure, the future, it is very natural and understandable and acceptable that the future government of Afghanistan is going to be somehow religious. Because the main power of main power of that government is going to be formed by Taliban, so it is going to be a religious government. But but how is it going to be conservative or not conservative? This definition, it relies on how you look into that government, how you define conservative, how you define a religiously conservative government. We see.
So how do you define? How do you define? You just said that Afghan before this very moment was an Islamic republic. So how would you define the very word conservative?
I think if there is an inclusive government that do not exclude anyone, if there is freedom of speech, freedom of choosing, that the people would have the right to choose their own leader who is going to lead them, and there is a freedom of speech and freedom of media, freedom of certain freedoms for women, that would be kind of the government that people of Afghanistan are looking to. no matter is it called Emirat or is it called Republic or any kind of other shapes of the government or regimes. We have, for example, in the world, we have the United Emirates, United Arab Emirates. They are an Emirat. They are run by an Emir. Qatar is run by Emir. We have a monarch in UK. They have a kingdom. So, but still, they are the mother of democracy. So we in Afghanistan can have any type of government, any name, any label. The laws are still going to be Islamic laws as it was previously. I can assure you that all the laws in Afghanistan, the civil law, the criminal law, which was being implemented during the 20 years of democracy, what we so-call democracy in Afghanistan, was the details of the laws were Islamic. But there are certain values. If those values are there, we can say that the government is not conservative, or at least it's kind of somehow to some level acceptable to the people of Afghanistan. But it remains for the international recognition. Will the international community recognize such government or not? I think that will relay, or that would depend on their political views or the political ties and connections with Taliban or with the next regime of Afghanistan. We can clearly see that the world is recognizing Israel as a state purely based on religious views, extreme religious views, but they are recognizing Israel. And they gave it the right for the Jews that they should have a state based on their pure religious views.
Well,
why not Afghans?
that seems
Why not other
yes,
people in
Professor.
Afghanistan?
Thank you very much, and we'll be getting back to you for more on your analysis on the situation in Afghanistan. And earlier, my colleague Tian Wei has spoken to Suhail Shaheen, the Taliban political office's spokesperson in Qatar, on the issue of women's rights. Shaheen says they currently enjoy freedom in Taliban-controlled areas and that they can take part in normal social life. He says Afghan women can choose the style of hijab they wear based on the nature of their work. Let's hear what else he had to say.
Let me ask you, what about how women will function in societies? You earlier also told reporters that the Afghanistan in the future under Taliban will be by Sharia law. But how should we understand the scale of freedom that women could enjoy and should enjoy?
They are already enjoying. When journalists are working, they can report. The teachers are working. The doctors are working. The students are studying. The schools are open. The universities are open. So all of them are practically in areas under our control. They are doing this. So these are the ground realities. So should not have any worry about that. Yeah.
What about their wardrobe? Do they have the freedom to choose whatever they want to wear, or do they have to wrap up their whole body as they had to?
Yes, of course. So when they go to job, they go to market. So that is they are going and they are participating in the society. And there is not one specific type of hijab. There is a different type of hijab. So this is up to them. They based on their work, they can choose.
For more on the Taliban's approach to women's rights, earlier we also interviewed female activist Laluma Nasiri. She leads the Afghan Justice Organization in Kabul. Here's what she had to say on the future of women under Taliban rule.
Since Sunday, I have been at home and watching what is going on. So my experience at this moment is just like it was many years before, and just like other women experienced it. At this moment, although Taliban keep saying that they support women, and they even announced that men and women should come to their offices and start their work again, but there is no trust. Women, because of their fear of the past experiences, are not going out of their homes. The points that the Taliban usually raise during the negotiation process, I don't trust. They are genuine, and I feel like they are currently speaking up about rights of women in Afghanistan, although they still put the condition of under Islamic rules. and Sharia rules, which they interpreted their own way. I don't trust that they are doing it genuinely. They are doing it only for the purpose of attracting the support of the international community, because that's one of the points that the international community will recognize them officially if they actually did not harm people, did accept the women's rights and human rights. And if they want to rule people, they have to respect people. That's, I think, the one thing that can help them.
So, Professor Hakimi, we just heard words from the spokesperson of the Taliban political office, but that female activist in Afghanistan said she didn't trust the Taliban's words. What do you make of the very issue of women's rights in the near future in your country?
Speaking of the women's future in the country, let's not forget that after the 20 years of existence of Americans in Afghanistan, in the democracy area, what we call, only 16% of Afghanistan women had access to internet, and only 20% of Afghanistan women are literate and they can read and write. 80% of Afghan women are still illiterate and they are living in the villages of Afghanistan, where the women of Afghanistan, face the very burden of war in bombing and brutality there in the villages. So I can say that yes, Taliban is facing a big challenge, giving literacy to all those women, giving their rights to all those women living in the villages and in the cities of Afghanistan. What we have witnessed so far is first of all, the statements of Taliban spokesperson and their leadership that they are assuring women for their rights. And the second, that we are actually experiencing women in different eras of life. We are watching women anchors right now in Afghanistan. TVs, we can see that women anchors are interviewing Taliban leadership in the TVs. Schools are open again, and I witnessed from my own neighborhood that women teachers are going to the schools. And Taliban leadership has been holding meetings with women doctors, calling them and nurses, calling them back to the hospitals. So we are optimistic. We are optimistic in this because it shows a clear change and a clear shift from Pakistan, from Taliban's position since their last ruling time in 1990s. It's a clear change. But will they impose hijab? Will they impose very strict rules on women on their wearings? It's yet to be judged about. It's soon to judge about right now. But what can I say overall? That Afghanistan society is a conservative society. Even women in the last 20 years, the picture of a woman shown in the last 20 years are only from one or two major cities, a small percentage of women without hijab. While I can say surely the more than 90% of women of Afghanistan were wearing hijab, were covering their faces, were covering their full body during the last 20 years even. So if the women of Afghanistan are given rights to education, rights to freedom of speech, rights to work, rights to form communities, and rights to political contribution to the country, it would not be a very big problem for a conservative society like Afghanistan to ask women to wear hijab, because they are Muslim and they are already, hijab is a part of our culture in Afghanistan, and all women have been wearing that since not only 1 or 2 years or 1 or 2 days. They have been wearing these hijab in this culturally and Islamic wearings since decades and thousands of years.
Thank you very much, Professor Hamza Bowman Hakimi in Kabul. You're watching Global Watch on CGTN. Coming up, the suspect in a bomb threat at the US Capitol building surrenders to police. And Japan warns of consequences after South Korean court orders the seizure of Mitsubishi assets over forced labor in the Second World War.
The Taliban regime is coming to an end.
There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof.
أفغانستان